Hello there, welcome to the Firewatch audio tour. My name is Rich Summer. I voiced the character of Henry, the guy that you're currently controlling with those buttons there. And I'll be chatting with you in a little bit. Thanks for checking it out.
Hi, I'm Sean Vanneman. I wrote the bulk of 100% of this game.
Hey, I'm Jake Rodkin. I did a lot of level design, UI design, and worked with everyone on the story for Firewatch.
The game has this weird structure that Chris and I talk about in another tape. This is the first thing I wrote, was this opening of the game that jumps between Henry's life and the trip out to the woods. And I used a little product called Twine to do that, which you can download and use. It's just a very simple choose-your-own-adventure tool. The simplest way to program a video game that one can then share with friends and play.
I think we were worried that the team would sort of perceive Henry as a blank slate, as sort of a generic game player protagonist, and we wanted to make sure, or we wanted to get in everyone's mindset, you're playing as a specific guy with a specific life.
Yeah, there's a reason when you play video games that a lot of your protagonists have amnesia, because it's really difficult when you're driving a character around who knows things about their life, or his or her life, that you, who you ostensibly are that person, don't know. So yeah, we kept trying to write an opening of the game that happened sort of like weeks into Henry's experience, and then quickly realized that it was like, well, why would he not be able to say X? Well, because his relationship with his wife is Y. So, but the player doesn't know that. Yeah. And this was the quickest way to get everybody on board, was to just take the thing that I wrote that answered the question, I think, for Jane and you at the beginning, which was like, who is Henry? And I would write these character profiles that were really bad. And then I went, what if I just let you play a thing? And then you can figure out who he is. And we held on to that until we had the idea to put into the game.
It means that when you're playing Firewatch and Henry and Delilah start talking about Henry's wife, you don't have to learn it through his dialogue, because you made the choices that brought him where he is today. Hi, it's Jake again.
Hey, I'm Chris Remo.
Oh, hey, Chris.
Hi there. I was a game designer and the music composer on Firewatch.
Nice.
So you're hearing now the first piece of interactive music that went into Firewatch, the first piece of music that actually
responds to what you're doing in the game?
Exactly, yeah. So this is a piece of music that's divided into technically 6 parts, and what's happening is as you're playing through this introductory sequence, when you hit certain points in the narrative, it sends a signal to Wise, which is the name of the audio middleware we're using, and then when Wise gets that signal, it waits until the next sort of musically appropriate transition point, and then when it hits that, it smoothly transitions into the next section of music. And so it creates the effect that you're just listening to one big long piece of music that just happens to be timed very nicely
It just
to your
happens.
playthrough.
It just happens to get sadder and sadder at the exact rate that your life gets sadder and sadder.
Yeah, exactly. This was a challenge.
Hi, it's Jake again.
Hey, I'm Chris Remo.
Oh, hey, Chris.
Hi there. I was a game designer and the music composer on Firewatch.
Nice.
So you're hearing now the first piece of interactive music that went into Firewatch. The first piece of music that actually...
Responds to what you're doing in the game?
Exactly, yeah. So this is a piece of music that's divided into technically 6 parts. And what's happening is as you're playing through this introductory sequence, when you hit certain points in the narrative, it sends a signal to Wise, which is the name of the audio middleware we're using. And then when Wise gets that signal, it waits until the next sort of musically appropriate transition point, and then when it hits that, it smoothly transitions into the next section of music. And so it creates the effect that you're just listening to one big long piece of music that just happens to be timed very nicely
It just
to your
happens.
playthrough.
It just happens to get sadder and sadder at the exact rate that your life gets sadder and sadder.
Yeah, exactly. This was a challenging process, both because I had no idea what the music should sound like, and also because it was the first interactive piece of music in the game. So the technical sort of just how does this work was also a part of it. But as it turned out, this music was changed. I mean, Jake, you may remember this. This music changed relatively little over the course of development in comparison to a lot of the
I think
other music.
it started off as maybe 3 pieces and it expanded out to 5 over development. But other than that, it's one of the first things dropped in,
Yep.
shipped. Get ready to hear about that a lot on this commentary.
I'm Nels Anderson, and I was a designer and gameplay programmer on Firewatch.
I am Jane Ng, and I worked on the 3D environment art in Firewatch.
So you're likely standing at the base of your home away from home. Your home in the wilderness. For all intents and purposes, more or less, this is basically just a real straight-up tower like they existed out in the woods, right?
Yeah, I think it is Portland. There's somebody in Portland who was very good about archiving a lot of, blueprints about various type of fire lookouts of the state, and we got some, and that's how we started off building the lookout tower, just by looking through how they were actually built.
It's slightly taller than a real one, right?
And we had to make quite a bit of adjustments because, for example, the stairway you see here, normally fire lookout stairways are not on the outside, but for more interesting gameplay and views for the player, we opted to change that. But ultimately we still wanted the tower to feel like a real tower, so we had to figure stuff like, hey, how does the plumbing actually work? How do they get water? Stuff like that. It actually is very important for a real tower.
And if you go look around the base of the tower, you will actually see a big old plastic cistern.
We are not a survival game of any sort, but it is important to make sure that all that stuff is actually thought out, so the space feels realistic.
Right. You don't want someone playing the game being like, wait a minute, there's no how does this guy drink? How is he not dead?
When I normally play video games, I'm always interested in stuff like, hey, where's the bathroom? Here we have the outhouse and you can go anywhere, but stuff like water is very important. So in a real fire lookout situation, what they do is they will use a cistern, and they will capture rainwater from the roof, and you will actually see that we actually have a little pipe down from the roof. And we even have what they call a first flush filter being there, which is actually what they use.
That's my favorite kind of filter, really.
I had to look at what do they do? Because once you go, okay, you collect rainwater from the roof, it won't be all nasty. And then, oh, hey, somebody already figured that out on how to collect rainwater. What do you know?
We actually visited a number of different lookout towers as we were researching the game, and it was always very satisfying to see elements of things we saw in the real world and make their way back into the game, and vice versa.
So we also made sure to have a tab here, like a little faucet, where you can actually get water from the cistern.
Yeah, if you click on it, it will play an animation. Okay. A knob, and water comes out for 2 seconds. Doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
But it's there.
I think for a while we actually were thinking, should we just let the player turn on the water? But then what happens if the water just runs out? And then James had a very good idea of just going just make one animation that you turn on the faucet and turn it off immediately, just so that you know, hey, there's water in here and you won't die. That's Henry.
Anteeksi tosta äskeimestä, mutta mä just tajusin, mulla on mikä kun ei teillä, mä en oo puhunut paskaakaan. Mie vasta kun mä laitoin tossa vähän aikaa sitten, niin mä en puhunut mitään, kun mä vaan kuuntelin vitsin teippiä ja me saman aikaan meni vähän teiltä pois, haluan kattoo YouTubea läppäristä. Onko mä miksannut 3. kasetin? Ehkä. Mutta kyllä vittu olen. Pitää laittaa voima päälle vittu.
Hello, Two Forks Tower. Two Forks Tower, this is Thoroughfare Tower. Come in.
Kiitos.
Hello? Whoever this is?
It's Henry, right?
Yeah.
I'm Delilah.
Yeah, that's what the guy said on the phone.
So, what's wrong with you?
Excuse me?
People take this job to get away from something. So, what's wrong? That's a great idea. Go ahead.
Look, I just hiked for 2 days, so I don't really follow whatever it is you're doing right now.
You take a stab at what's wrong with me.
Fine, then can I sleep forever?
Sure, buddy. Okay, now go ahead.
Okay, you've killed 3 husbands. You're a black widow and you're just out here until the heat dies down and then you'll kill again.
Ooh, very good. Bravo, Henry.
Okay, I sleep now?
Not quite. Now you.
Okay, good night, bye.
Let's see. I don't know anything about you, but 9 times out of 10, folks out here simply got dumped.
Huh, is that it?
Close?
Good night.
Good night. Welcome to the job.
Firewatch, day one. Mihin 2 arvoit oli vitun pitkä peli, koska jos kohta tuli vitsi 74 päivää, vai mikä se trofin nimi oli, oliko 74 tai 75, niin mä vittu aina luulin, että oli niin vitun pitkä peli, että ne kaikki päivät on 1 episodi tässä pelissä, niin mä ajattelin, että se vitsi se päivä 75 kautta 74 oli viimeinen päivä, niin ja kaikissa päivässä on 1 episodi.
Good morning, Henry. Well, I guess good afternoon. You probably slept like a rock. Anyway, there's still a few hours of daylight to get some work in. I can see you at your desk, so call me when you're ready.
Hey, sorry, guess I slept in.
You got a relaxing, 14 hours of sleep? Whew.
Yeah, Jesus, I guess it's what,
Kasvattaa.
6?
6:45.
Whoops.
Don't worry about it. That hike puts everyone out of commission for a day or 2. But now that you're up, let me quickly get you acquainted with the job. There's a thing in the middle of your room with a round map on it. Do you see it?
Okay, yeah, I see it.
This is the Osborne Firefinder, invented in 1914 by W.B.
Osborne?
You use this to spot, you guessed it, What the fuck?
What is it?
Nothing. You use this to... Oh, fuck me!
Good God, language, lady.
Out your west-facing window. Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Whoa, that's not legal, right?
No. You need to get
Mä
down there
tämänkin
right
mutalle.
now and stop them. Fire danger is through the fucking roof.
Is that really my job?
Your job is... The closest ranger is like 2 days away. Go down there and set him straight.
Nels, it feels like you on the team did the most sort of digging about what the real job is like, what is in the actual space, and then checked us against reality when we kind of went off the reservation.
In general, I really like doing research. That's sort of a thing I've enjoyed on all the projects I've worked on. So for this, a bunch of folks on the team read this great book called Fire Season by Philip Connors, which is kind of like a memoir-ish thing from this dude who still is an active fire lookout even today. But I also just, I called up the Ministry of Forests and Natural Resources here in British Columbia and got redirected to like 3 increasingly small Ministry of Forest offices until someone just gave me literally the phone number of this cool old lady who had once been a fire lookout. So I just kind of chatted with her for like an hour and a half just about what doing the job was like. The reason why the game is not a simulation of being a fire lookout is because what everyone talks about is that the number one challenge with the job is that it is incredibly, impossibly boring.
Because you can't, like, read a book. You can't, like, be doing other things, right? Like,
Not really.
Yeah.
At the end of day 3, where Delilah mentions it's like, Kenny's like, well, what do I do for the rest of the summer? She's like, you sit in that chair and you look out the window. That is actually what fire lookouts really do. So all the folks I talked to said, like, figuring out ways to combat boredom is the number one thing. The lady I talked to, she said she did a whole lot of needlepoint and cross-stitch because you can do that without looking at your hands very much. Obviously, like, lookouts are also responsible for doing, maintenance on their towers. But again, it's like not maintenance because some crazy Yahoo smashed up your tower. It's maintenance like, oh, the paint is kind of flaking off. Better paint it. Or these trees have grown too tall, so I need to chop them down. Not I'm chopping down trees to form a weird log bridge.
The main takeaway from whenever we would talk to someone who had done this job is
why would you make a game about that? That is the most boring time of my entire life. So hopefully we showed them how.
It feels like people who do this job like fall into two camps, right? They're the people who think they can do it and can't hack it and bail after like a month or two. You know, people like Jack Kerouac, who tried to do this and wrote about it in Desolation Angels, and then he went crazy from a lack of cigarettes and then left. Or the people who kind of enjoy the solitude and then figure out ways to deal with it. But, you know, we do have, like, a lot of the window dressing for the stuff people use. Like, other folks I talk to, it's like, what do you do? Well, we read a lot of books. And we, like, trade the books between the different lookouts through rangers and stuff like that. So, of course, Firewatch has a crap ton of weird books in it. Stuff like that.
Mä voin sanoa, että tää ei ole minun ensimmäinen kerta, että mä pelaan tätä. Onko tää joku 3. kerta, että mä pelaan tätä uusta. Mä en oo vaan pelata tätä ikuisuuteen.
I've got an overgrown trail here,
Yeah, that'll happen.
so I'm screwed when it comes to getting past it.
Screwed until you clear it yourself, yeah.
Great. Well, if I come across some tools, I'll add groundskeeping to my ever-increasing list of responsibilities.
Hi there, it's Jake.
And Chris again.
Hey, so here we are in the cache box clearing, or at least I guess that's what we call it. There's a lot of cache boxes in Firewatch, but this was the first one that we placed into the game.
For a long time, this was the cache box.
It was the cache box, even though we knew we wanted to have more. This area was actually one of the first areas that we built out to any degree that looks like a piece of the world. It was a really good proving ground for us. Like when me and Nels Anderson were grayboxing the world at the very beginning, we tried a million different things. Like maybe this was on the edge of a cliff, or maybe it was a secret that you had to find. And I think it was Sean who suggested that he really wanted it to feel like a warm, sort of enclosed space, like you've stumbled onto a little glen and you want to stay there for a while, which I think makes sense because we wanted people to actually stop and poke around and have it not feel like the woods.
This was an area with a lot of firsts. I remember this really ended up looking a lot like Ollie's concept art in a way I think that felt like an accomplishment when it all got built out. It was also the first audio I implemented in the entire game, I believe.
The Foley on the locks and the lid?
Right, exactly.
Oh, this was, man, this was also, the cache box was also our proving ground for detailed object interaction with Henry animating the lock. And also, there's an exit out if you back up and turn left. That was the first time I prototyped one-way drops and also any like sort of secret paths, because the way that you cross the canyon also showed up here, and I didn't tell anyone on the team about it for like months, and people only noticed it once they started playing the back half of the game, and it was very fulfilling for me.
Nice.
Cache box.
Cache box, land of firsts and secrets.
That's the state flag of cache boxes.
Jake.
Oh, hey, Sean.
You did a neat thing here in the game that I like a lot, which is when you make a... But what this dangerous hill should be called. It shows up on your map, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, when we were putting the map system together, well, actually, the map weirdly was one of the latest things, one of the final things to come into the game as a fully fleshed out piece. But an upside of that is we built the map using a lot of tools we already had. For instance, the system that checks which things you have and haven't talked about, which things you haven't found in the game, use the same variable list as our speech system. So when I was putting this together, I realized, oh, not only can I put a mark down on the map when Henry finds it or talks about it, but I can totally look at the same tools we use for dialogue and figure out what the player said and put it on the map. And the end result felt really natural. I actually wish deeper on it in the game, but I'm really happy with what's in there right now. Also, please name this Shitty Boss Is Gonna Get Me Killed, because that's objectively the best name for the hill.
Is that your handwriting?
Yeah, you gotta you gotta cram that in there, but it's still readable.
It is a hell of a nice camping spot down here by the lake.
I haven't been down there in years, but yeah, Jonesy Lake area is...
Hi, this is Ollie Moss, and I was the art director on Firewatch.
I'm Jane.
Hi, Jane.
Let's talk about this teen
Let's
party
talk about
zone.
Let's talk about the Teen Zone. So the Teen Zone is one of the first areas that we used as a sort of art test to see how we would go about building the rest of the game.
We knew from the pretty early on that, like, on day one, you will start from the tower, and you will have to head down to the lake, and some will see some teens, and they're partying. And so we call this the teen zone because this is where all the teen stuff is.
Yeah, and it was important to us that the reveal that it was a group of teens was communicated through the level design. So the idea was that you just kind of like walk through some trees and burst out into this scene where a campfire was still burning.
And you had a pretty strong idea of what you wanted to look like.
Yeah, I just wanted to put some big angular rocks in there, which is basically the like my modus operandi for the entire game. But we wanted to have a big angular sort of rock, which became known as Pride Rock because it looked so much like the rock from The Lion King.
We did name that Pride Rock, didn't we? That rock does serve as a very strong landmark pretty early in the game, and it kind of does point the player in the right direction.
Exactly. Should we talk a little bit about our process for designing these areas?
So in the beginning, when we just have like no concept art, we will just mock it out with just gray, literally just gray boxes and a gray terrain. And then we will take screenshots and give it to Ollie to be like, please pretty this up, Ollie.
Oh well, first of all, I'll do a terrible garbage sketch and pitch it to the team. And if people like the gist of it, then we'll go away and do a bit more of a detailed drawing, and then you would go.
Yeah, we'll add in some more shapes, and then we just keep going back and forth with paint overs from Ollie.
And then it's just a sort of tennis, really, just back and forth between the two of us until everyone's happy with what we have.
Yeah.
Psycho! Yeah, fuck you! You'll fucking pay for this. You can't just harass girls in the woods. Let's get out of here.
Hey, that go okay?
It went fine. Hopefully there won't be...
My name is Patrick Ewing. I worked on tools and gameplay programming.
The teens, Patrick.
Let's open some old wounds here.
This is like going back to like an old battleground and being like on these hollowed grounds.
Yeah,
bad
I died on
things
this hill.
happened. I died on this hill.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most complex interactions in the game, if not the most, right?
Yeah.
And it was in the game from the very first vertical slice we did, and then I think we kind of added to it as we played through it and saw like, oh, we should be able to throw the boombox in the lake, obviously, right? Okay, the teens need to react to the boombox being in the lake. Oh, but then they should also react to you putting it down.
What you should do if you're making a video game is build relatively ironclad, predictable AI and systems that react to inputs. But instead, we built a series of relatively flimsy state machines that were like, if this, but not when, and also if.
Right.
And we're able to create this scene as designed. And Patrick was sort of the shepherd of this scene. So whenever anything would break, if you were to throw the boombox and the teens were not to respond, or you leave with the boombox and they would talk about something else, it was Patrick's job to ferret into the
Right.
state machine and
Right.
figure out what was going on.
Yeah, and I'm happy with how it turned out. There are so many different ways that this scene can play out now, depending on what you choose to do. Do you throw the fireworks at them? Do you talk to them and then start messing up their stuff and throwing it in? And it ends up being pretty like believable. They feel like real characters. It's just such a crazy spaghetti code in the back end that I'm always terrified when I see someone play through it, that there's some interaction that we didn't think about.
That right now the player is interacting with the teens in a way that is completely not by the book. And
I mean, luckily
the
we
beads
haven't.
of sweat are building on your brow.
Yeah, I think it's just a PTSD response at this point. We would see the bug reports if this was actually still breakable.
Yeah.
Yes!
What the hell?
I'm doing a crossword and I figured out the theme. It's homonyms. Pears, pears, pears. The clue was couples peeling fruit. Anyway, hope you're having a good afternoon.
Thanks.
Mä voin kertoa, että mä en muista paskakaan.
Hey, I'm back near that big rock outcropping, but not sure how to get back.
I'd head west, back towards the lake, and then turn north towards the canyon.
Okay, so from these rocks, where do I go again?
Go back towards the lake, turn north, and east through the canyon. There should be a trail at the far east side of it.
Okei, nyt mä tiedän mihin. Saolta.
So, I have a bit of a confession to make.
What is it?
Look, I was drunk last night when I welcomed you to the job.
Yeah, well, you're not the first boss to be guilty of that.
I I know I can get a little pushy, putting you on the spot about why you're out here and stuff.
It's fine.
I'll keep that sort of a thing to a minimum. Anyway, let me know when you get back to your lookout.
Hi, everyone. This is Ben Burbank. I'm a programmer at Campo Santo, predominantly doing graphics work and performance stuff. And I'm here with Jane.
Hi, I'm back.
And we're going to talk a little bit about, in general, how the world sort of streams in.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big open world game. There are, tens of thousands of trees somewhere in there?
Yeah, and we have how many chunks of the world that we stream in and out?
There are 100 plus?
Yeah, I think over 120.
One of the big challenges with that was we have to remove parts of it when you're not looking at it, because video game consoles and computers don't like to draw things that aren't seen.
Especially not a lot of trees.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for that little graphics card to do to try and draw all those that big forest. So the canyon's one of the spots where we have obvious occlusion, where you can't see most of the world. So we unload the tower hub. The tower that you see in the canyon is fake. It's a small fake version.
Yeah.
Which is a common trick.
Yeah, so it's like a very low cost version of what it would actually be there.
One of the biggest challenges for Jane and people building the levels was figuring out line of sight. So how far can you see? If you have a point where you can see entirely across the map, we had to be very careful about what is actually loaded and what's actually drawing.
Yeah, so even though the canyon is pretty much a straight corridor, we had to put in some kinks in there. So, right sort of in the middle, there's a little area where you have to go around a rock. This is so that we could make sure you won't be looking at the lake when we basically delete it out of the world.
Yeah. The game also, it's sort of non-linear. There's a linear story going on, but there's the ability for the player to just go backwards. So we also had to keep in mind reverse line of sight and things like that, which is a little different than a traditional action game or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little puzzle game almost to figure out when we stream in and out things. So hopefully you don't notice any of it, because if you do, that's actually us not doing a great job.
You probably will notice it though sometimes. I'm sorry about that.
So I say...
Hi, I'm Jane. We're back.
And I'm Ollie.
Let's talk about this cave, Ollie.
Oh, let's not.
This cave really gave us all quite a bit of headache, actually. I was actually kind of having a mini panic attack, because one of the hardest things to light in games actually is any area that's sort of half indoor and half outdoor, and this cave is a pain in the butt to light.
It is. Well, we thought you'd be an old pro at this, having worked on a game called The Cave. But yeah, it caused a lot of problems in terms of the logic gating of the environment switches, because every time the time of day changes in the game, it then sets that time of day.
Because there's no doorway, really.
So the way the cave is lit, it actually just changes the time of day in the whole game. So when you hit a trigger, if you could somehow magically transport yourself back outside the cave, you'd see the sun spinning through the sky, the sky changing, and it was really hard to make that process invisible to the player and make it feel natural.
Not to mention that when you're inside the cave, everything also has to look really dark. And we use a method called image-based lighting throughout the game. And that basically means that all the objects, like all the trees and rocks, just look out to the sky to see what their lighting should be. And so in the cave, we actually had to do sort of like a fake sky for anything inside that is just pure black, so the lighting inside would be appropriately dark,
but still navigatable to a player without the
exactly.
flashlight.
And also to be able to have a smooth transition when you're going from the brightly lit outside to the really dark inside and coming back out again, and having all the appropriate logic for the time of day. Like Ollie said, it was just a real pain in the butt.
Vittu heti kun ollaan lähtää loppuun.
I love the little details in Firewatch's branching dialogue. There are a lot of very subtle, hard to notice things that Sean put in while writing it that you notice without multiple playthroughs, but they add up to this feeling that you're talking to real people who, just like real people, kind of echo back things you said earlier, who continue in jokes that have been established, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the subtlest that I don't think I even noticed till I was rewiring the game midway through is the spooky figure who you meet towards the end of day one.
Spooky figure. If the teens call you a creep, Henry calls the guy who's putting a flashlight in his face a creep.
Right.
And he goes, "There's some guy out here creeping," or he says something like, "He's a creep out here." She's like,
Yeah.
"A creep, Henry?" He's like,
Right.
"Yeah, there's a guy who's spooking me out here. I don't like it." And I mean, I like doing stuff like that. I pay a lot of attention to the sort of infectiousness of language.
Yeah.
Especially in this office, someone will start using a turn of phrase that then I'll be at lunch with someone later, or I'll be out with Jake or whatever, and then I'll hear the phrase
Theory crafting?
through them,
Yeah.
where it's like, like if somebody was saying, "Oh, there was a total creep outside at the bus stop," then it wouldn't be long, like 18 hours later, it would be totally conceivable to hear Jake be like, "Oh yeah, that guy's kind of a creep. I don't know if we should have him by or whatever."
Yep.
And I'd be like, "Man, okay, like that word is now like bubbling along the surface of our social network here."
Mm-hmm.
And people are like that. People are weird, sort of like passive, like non-participatory sponges sometimes.
Yeah.
And I just like putting that stuff in the writing. And you can do that in games in a way that you can't do that in other media. If you do that in like a book or something, it's so double underlined that it feels like you're making a big point as an author. But in a game, because it's player driven and it's passive, it just feels causal and the way the world.
Full disclosure, I pee wherever I want as well.
Mi silenzi.
So this generator is all the power I've got out here.
Yep, it doesn't go through much gas, and, well, you don't have much in the way of electronics, so...
What about my hairdryer?
Oh, I'm sorry. You might just have to make peace with frizzy locks.
Chris again here.
Hey, and Jake, congratulations, player. You have completed the teen loop.
Oh man, that's true. This is the end of what was originally called teenloop.unity, a scene file in our game engine Unity, because we thought that was just going to be the file corresponding to the
To
first
this piece
sort
of game that you've just played.
Yeah, this first big objective.
But then we kept building, so all of Firewatch is in fact saved inside of a file called teenloop.unity. So
Yep, the
know that
entire
for the
game.
rest of your play experience, you are inside of the teen loop.
Yeah. This part of the game, you probably are right now if you're listening to these commentary notes basically in sequence. Music is either about to kick in or has just kicked in. It's dark. You're finding your tower's been broken into. This, I really strongly remember feeling when this went into the game and had the music, which was actually the first music implemented in the entire game. All this stuff together felt to me like the first real moment of assertive tension in the game, and it felt really crazy.
Yeah, because we had our environment system working for the first time, so the sky turned to nighttime, and our world logic allowed the tower to switch into its broken into state just when you were off in the world for the first time. And then when that music finally came in, we're like, oh, wow, okay, this is a world that's alive and can be tense and cinematic.
Yep.
And all of it happened without us ever having to cut the camera. I remember we were all very proud and stoked of that.
For sure.
That was like right before we first demoed the game, I think, at the Penny Arcade Expo.
Yeah, because the end of day one was the end of the first demo.
Yeah.
Right before, with the creepy guy in the woods, and that was sort of a moment of tension. But that's also arguably maybe not, because it's immediately deflated by Delilah.
Right, but this, you're like,
was like,
holy crap.
Okay, I remember feeling kind of nervous about it because it was like the game is declaring this is a tense moment, and if it falls flat, we have failed. We can't like make a joke to diffuse it. And I think it basically worked, and it was a real relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ba, 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 ba.
Thanks.
I need you to feel safe out here.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, you can protect yourself, huh?
I've done it before.
Okay, tough guy.
Okay. What the fuck? Okay, eka kerta kun mä näin kun mä tuli minä näin se vitsi tuo vitsi kirjoittaja maassa, tuo typewriterin maassa. Niin mä oon tälle, what the fuck? Ja kun se tuli se musiikki vaan mä oon tälle, please, no jump scare, no jump scare, no jump scare, vitsi.
Wake up. Hey, wake up.
I'm awake. What's your problem?
Our problem.
Sorry, our problem.
That storm knocked out the phone line I used to talk to the service, which means we're cut off. I tried radioing out, and that's not working either.
Can I go fix it?
Well, you probably can't, but what you can do is hike out to where the wire runs through your area and report back if it's down. Then I can track down a ranger to get someone on it.
Okay, I can do that. Where is it?
Remember that cave you hiked through yesterday?
Yeah, of course.
So you're gonna... and keep going straight to the north when you come out.
Will do.
Thanks, Hank.
It's Henry.
What, you don't like Hank?
Yeah, I don't like Hank.
But thanks rhymes with Hank.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, all right.
Oh, it's actually pretty damn cold out here.
Roger that. Warms up fast. The mornings are cold in Boulder, though, right?
Yeah, they are.
What did you get up to down there? I mean, what's life like?
I just spend a lot of time with Julia.
Oh, so you have someone there.
Well,
But you're taking a little break. Or...
we're...
Look, I'm sorry. Can you hold that thought?
Sure. Just gonna keep hiking and hoping it warms up.
Heyo. I don't think so. Why, have you? Okay, good. No, I don't think he has any
Hey,
idea.
your button is still down.
I'm
Delilah,
absolutely
I can
sure.
hear you.
Would you?
I said I
All
could...
right. I'll let you know
Wait,
if
are you
anything
talking
changes
about
in that
me?
regard. Hey, sorry about that. Anyway, Julia, girlfriend? Ex? Sorry, I don't mean to pry.
That would be my wife, Julia.
Oh, like your wife? Or like she's taken half my stuff wife?
My wife.
But you're here.
She's sick, and I shouldn't be here, but I am.
I'm sorry, Henry. What is it?
We'll get into it.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, you are here, and it's beautiful, and escaping isn't always something bad.
Yeah, sure.
Look, I gotta go do a thing, but I'll have a radio. Okay, call me if you need to.
Wow, there's an old, I think it's called a medicine wheel out here?
Yeah, it was made by Crow American Indians hundreds of years ago. There are lots of small ones. Have you ever been to Medicine Wheel Monument over in the Bighorns?
I sure haven't.
Well, it's worth a 3-hour detour on the way home in August.
Neat. I'll keep it in mind. So, I'm at the medicine wheel.
So you're near your lookout.
Yeah, sure. I'm just wandering around in the forest, and I haven't seen one of the Red Eagle cans for miles.
That's a tough one. Why don't you try getting out of the woods so you can get a better view? Find a vista or a lookout point.
Okay, I'll try that. So, if I'm at the medicine wheel, am I getting close to that wire?
No. You're off track. The easiest thing to do would be to head back to your tower, then north through the canyon. Feel free to find a landmark and call me from there if you're still lost.
Mä tein tätä vitsiä ekalla kerralla.
This cave is gated off.
It's to stop spelunkers from dying without getting the keys from the Forest Service office first.
Makes sense.
Although, like 3 years ago, so maybe its mysteries are locked away for good.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
Ta-da.
but maybe you can find another one to get your caving kicks in.
Oh, this one's so close to home and convenient, though.
Aw, sorry, Hank.
Tätä mä tein kuinka kertaa pelasin Gemoutes. Vitsi, ekalla kerran mä sain sydänkohtauksen, kun tuo putos. Mä ajattelin. Jumalauta, tuo näytti sitä, niin kuin se olisi ollut auki, koska tuo vitun juttu.
I can see the wire you're talking about. It looks like it's in good shape from here.
We'll follow it up to the top of the trail if you can. You can head back as soon as you give me the all clear.
Got it. So we really can't reach anyone any other way than these wires?
What else do you suggest? Smoke signals?
Just seems dangerous.
Well, if they don't hear from me for a few days, they'll send someone out, but I'd rather it not come to that.
Guess what?
What is it?
There's a bunch of empty cans up here.
Same as before. These fucking kids.
How could these girls be so stupid?
Trust me, I never underestimate the stupidity of a drunk teenager. Also, I never underestimate the balls of a drunk young woman, having been one.
Yeah, okay, the wire's down here.
Okay, good. Any sign of those girls? Did they mess with anything?
I'll look around. Hey, so the wire is definitely down out here. I just found it. Yeah, the thing is, it doesn't look like the wind. It looks like it was cut deliberately.
I knew it the moment you said you found their trash. These idiots are gonna pay. Do they realize this is how people die? I mean, what if something happened to one of my lookouts while this was going on? And God forbid there's an actual fire burning out of control.
What do you want to do?
I want you to go find them.
And then what?
I haven't thought that far ahead. That's not true. Everything that comes to mind is illegal.
Let's hear it.
Hey, Chris again.
And Sean.
Hey, if you saw the second trailer for Firewatch, there's a moment that takes place here where Delilah points out that there's someone in Henry's tower. Henry points out that he's not there. Camera swings back to the tower, and it's a big dramatic ending. Of course, that moment happens in a completely different part of the map in the actual game and has totally unrelated to this moment that you're now experiencing.
And this was a trailer that we had debuted with Sony at E3, so we knew we had a big audience and that a lot of people were going to see it. It's really, really challenging. I mean, you all know, because everyone goes to movies, what it's like to watch a trailer for a movie that you're excited about and maybe have already decided to see and then be shown too much stuff.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, a movie either has like the ability to or sort of the chutzpah to just show you a scene that hit the cutting room floor or an alternate version of something that gets you feeling the way you should feel and excited for the movie as presented, but doesn't spoil it for you. And I think I'm really happy that we ended up doing that. I think it's good. Like, you're not lying. It's not like we showed you a mechanic, thing like that.
I think that we basically had to find a way to accurately convey the type of tension and mood of the game without spoiling it, and so we basically ended up just writing those trailers to fit. I think it worked.
Yeah, I'm happy with them.
Well, I am flush
Camera.
with ropes now. That pack was full of them, in decent condition, too.
That's lucky.
I mean, there's enough rope here that I could just leave them hooked up, I think. Oh, get this. This pack came with one of those cardboard single-use cameras.
With pictures left?
Yeah, he only used 3 or 4.
Neato.
Thank you, Brian Goodwin.
Wait, who?
The bag had the name Brian Goodwin.
Huh. Wow.
Do you know him?
Yeah, I just haven't heard that name in a few years.
Hi, it's Ben. Oh, it's Jake. Hey, Ben. So let's talk about Henry's camera. Or I guess, more specifically, the Goodwin family camera. His dad bringing one of those little cardboard cameras out with them, and we had thought at various points in production, maybe we should cut taking photos because it's really complicated. Maybe you should just see the ones at the end in the credits and be shocked by the Goodwin family.
When I joined the project, I actually was super excited about this feature. I liked the idea of having the camera have a little bit of a real-world feel to it. People seem to like when you showed an animated GIF of it on Twitter. People went crazy remembering these things.
Especially once the idea was proposed that on PC you could print out your photos or you could upload them to the internet and get them developed, which is the thing that we do.
Yeah, the photos that we take are actually secretly 5 megapixel, first generation digital camera quality photos, but just good enough that if you print them out, they look okay.
Yeah, once we went all in on that as a concept, it seemed like having the camera in the game was an essential no-brainer. And then we went all in on making it work like a real camera. We really wanted, you'll have a fixed number of shots you can take. Every time you take a picture, Henry has to wind the camera by hand.
And some players ignore it and don't take pictures. They'll take the 2 that Delilah tells you to, and then the end credits will play and they'll see 2 pictures and maybe have a little feeling of loss that they didn't participate in that feature.
Yeah, or people who get super bummed because they get really into the mystery and take pictures of strange machines and ripped up campsites and a dead Brian Goodwin, and then get to the end credit sequence and go, "Oh, that was me."
Yeah, they only see the sad things.
I
Those
like
people
that.
win.
Depending on how much you use the camera and what you choose to take a picture of, you end up getting a different story at the end of the game. That's the thing that I think worked out the best with the camera and made me the happiest that we actually went all out on building this stupid thing.
Yeah, it's really nice.
She's got Alzheimer's, dementia.
Whoa. How old was she?
Is she? She's alive. She's with her family in Melbourne, Australia. She's 43.
Fuck.
Yeah.
What was it like when you guys found out?
Devastating. Especially for her. You can understand.
And for you?
Anyway, everything she worked for was taken away, and that was it. Yeah. I'm sorry to be such a downer.
Don't even. I'm happy to listen. And, we'll try to have some fun this summer. I promise.
I see a really thin plume of smoke.
Yeah, I see it too. A thin plume like this is either a new fire or a campfire.
Campfire. You think it's them? It looks like it's to the southwest of me.
That's right. If you hike towards 5 Mile Creek, that should put you in the neighborhood. Keep an eye on that smoke plume. Let me know if it's getting any larger.
Hey, Chris here.
And Patrick.
Hey, Patrick. So at this point in the game, we're starting off on the search for the teens. One big challenge we frequently had on Firewatch was figuring out how to guide players when the person giving you your current objective doesn't actually know where to send you. Delilah knows you need to find the teens, but neither of you have any idea where to start.
And in this case, we'd used telephone poles to get you up to Beartooth Point, and we're now using some beer cans to sort of lead you in the general direction away from that. Of course, we rapidly saw that these teens were drinking a truly ludicrous number of beers in one walk.
I think you and I both placed quite a few of these beer cans, probably you even more than I.
Yep.
It started to sort of strain credulity.
Right, which is why I think we had to add that case at the end just to make it plausible that there are something like 30 cans out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, this is Ben again, and I'm here with Paolo.
Hello, I'm Paolo. I was the graphics programmer on Firewatch.
So we're here to talk a little bit about the time of day system that the game uses and the skybox stuff. You're in an area where there's a weird device that you can use to step and mess around with those while we talk.
As you can see around you right now, you can walk on the different parts there and you'll see the weather changing. So immediately when we started working on Firewatch, there were a couple of important points. We had to have a dynamic time of day. So at any point, people could trigger changing the fog, changing each individual component independently. At the same time, this has all sorts of technical implications, but the most important are, okay, how do we represent all this information? Games have many ways of baking data, which means that you sort of gather the lighting information in a scene and then you save it into memory, which is usually a texture or other data structures, to then use it in real time. Now, the problem with that was that we had a lot of different permutations and we wanted them to change in real time. And also, we didn't know ahead of time how many we were going to have. So we tried to go with a fully dynamic solution. In this case, what dynamic means is just that as you walk around, you'll see the sun moving around, the sky color changing, the fog color changing, and the shadows moving. So all those components are always rendered every frame, and there's no information that is stored anywhere.
So what pieces make up the sky again?
The sky, we tried first an approach of representing sort of a simplified version of the scattering equation and seeing what that would look like. And it was looking good in the game, but it was still very difficult to author. And since Ollie, as the art director, is absolutely talented with colors, at some point we just sat down and we sort of worked together and said, okay, imagine that you could just paint the sky in Photoshop and think about how that would work in the game. It might just magically work. And by doing that, we basically dissected his process of assembling just a painted sky in Photoshop, and we created a shader, which are basically programs that run on the GPU to render things, that suited his exact style. So really, the sky is just a series of gradients that blend into each other with a couple of controls to change curves and attenuations between them. So as you walk around, you'll be able to see how both the sky changes and then the fog adapts to the same color and the sun moves in the right direction. And then there were just a couple of numbers to make sure that like the brightness around the sun would be higher so that it would still sort of represent and give the feeling of what the sky and how the sky behaves.
And this like gave Ollie the ability to test some things very quickly.
Exactly. Having immediate feedback for filling a world that was as big as Firewatch, especially for the sort of limited team size that we had, was absolutely important. Like, we had to have a way so that artists would make something quickly, have an idea of what it would look in the game, and knowing that it was pretty close to what we were going to ship.
Yep.
Mä en enää tiedä, mihin mun pitäis mennä. Tänne? Mä oon ihan hukassa. Mä en muista mitään tästä. Mä en edes käynyt täällä aidalla viime kerralla. Oh shit. Niinku että iso oh shit. Holy shit. Onko se vamptimme ajatus? Whoop-de-doo, merde. Okei, ehkä mä päätän ehkä läpäistä nyt mikä sen nimi on Hollow Knightin ja vaan ite jollain vielä. Kuoliko koko tästä tuli tämmönen surullinen musiikki. Tonne.
What are you gonna do when the fire season wraps up? Are you gonna go be with her? Just go back to Boulder? You should go be with her. That's my opinion. Sorry for the umpteenth time.
Maybe I'll go visit. I don't know.
Well, why not?
In Mel. Not big fans of mine.
Oh.
Her sister, Susan, is great, but her parents, I think they always thought she could do better, and that I could have done a better job looking after her.
Fuck that. I have no doubt you did your best.
I don't know.
If you want to go visit her, you should go. Don't let a couple of assholes keep you away from someone you love.
I'll think about it.
Oletpa vaikka pari vuotta ja vasta sitten mennä.
I'm down in Thunder Canyon. I'm not seeing that smoke anymore.
Oh, it's still burning away. Try heading west from where you are. If you loop past the lake, there should be a trail that'll take you further south.
Thanks, that helps.
Eikö suoraan? Mä pientä kompassi ulkona. Kun toi kompassi auttaa paljon enemmän kuin se vitun kartta. Okei, käy. Kuinka paljon kello on? Onks kello? Kello on kohta puoli ykkönen ja mulla on kello on puoli yksi ja mun pitäis ehkä olla koulussa, mutta hihimedin se. No mä en oikeesti voi vittu riittää mun jalkaa, niin sen takia mä en oo koulussa. Missä vittu lafittaa? Okei, tääpä on niinku semmonen peli, joka niinku haluaa, että sä etenet. Tää on myös aika isosti open worldi, että onks se susi vai mikä helvetin tuoki oli? No, onks mä mennyt tosta? No vittu en! La fitta. Ei ollut narua, niin en oo mennyt tosta. Ja tää mua mietittää kyllä jotain. Kannattaisiko etsiä jotain... Tän on tässä pelissä jotain salaisuuksia, mutta mä en oikein muista mitä löytää. Kun enimmäismäärä niistä voi löytää sinne vitsin foro-juttu Valkis. Mikä se nimi? Näkyisikö tästä? No vittu Veila, fittaa. Mä valkoinen mitä ne on. Tarviiko mä tähän sen helvetin kirveen? Mä vittaa. Okei, missä mä ees oo? Mihin vittuun pitäisi niinku mahdollisesti mennä? Forofare. No se oli forofare. No ei vittu sanaakaan, saatana. No vittu. Okei, käy. Tää peli on ärsyttävä peli. Kun ei tiedä mitä tehdään. Saan yhdellä päästä tää ehkä yhdessä päivässä koko kerralla, mutta muuten en muista paskaa. Okei, tuo on aika lähellä. Nytte. Mukava uimapaikka. Ei oo vieläkään sinne. No onko? Vittu. Ai perkele. Mitä on helvetis? Vittu jees. Niinku että vittu jees. Että niinku miten mun pitäis päästä tonne. Okei, Scrootista ei saa vielä. Oi, saata vähän väsyttää. Järsi jotain 8. Jees. Aamulla. Ei, eilen. Kaista. Aamulla. No eikö siitä mulla voi vittu kiivetä. Viime kerralla kun mä koitin, niin kyllä mä pystyn kiivetä. Miten helvetissä mun pitäis... Häveres, okei. 5 mil crack. Miten helvetissä? Sorsata smoke. Tuo ankkapariskunta saatana. Scroodista. Mä en jaksa päästä näin tällä tuolla striimillä. Ehkä huomenna, en minä tiedä. Eikä. Juu, mä koitan läpäistä se huomenna.